always, true pleasure.
Thank you for having me here.
So, Toby, we heard from you earlier about Pact Swap. For those who missed it, or for those who are just tuning in, could you give us a little bit of a background about what Pact Swap is, and where did it come from? Where did the idea originate? How did you come up with the idea of a Pact Swap?
Okay, we live in a decentralized world. I think everybody in this room would agree. And there are centralized gatekeepers that are controlling our decentralized world, namely sexes.
Yep.
And we took a look at that landscape and we thought it needed to be disrupted. As simple as that. And so we have built a decentralized gateway, being a swap platform that operates at the same cost base as a dumb retail customer on a sex.
You bring up a really great point, because the entire point of crypto, of Web3, is decentralization. It's trustlessness, and so much of the business revolves around trusted third parties at this point. So was that something that you all saw as a problem that you tried to fix?
Well, when there was no regulation, what we saw was a load of bad actors come into the space and effectively abuse retail customers. So now there's more and more regulation coming in, there's more trust being introduced, but that doesn't stop bad actors being in this space. But when you're dealing on a DEX and you're dealing on chain, you can see where your funds are. You're effectively peer-to-peer with whoever the counterparty is at that moment in time. So it's totally trustless. And isn't that the main point?
Yeah,
of our space?
Yeah, completely. If we wanted just to do centralized third parties, we could just do it with the banks.
Or just stick with HSBC.
Right. So there's a lot of cross-chain solutions out there. There's a lot of bridges. There's a lot of DEXs. You mentioned that you're able to do it cheaper. How did you solve for that, and how did you get to that point? How are you able to do it cheaper?
Okay, no disrespect to the guys that are currently doing this, but what they're currently doing is effectively building a blockchain in between other blockchains. And that's a cookie cutter approach. And that's all anybody's been doing for, the past 8 years plus. And it's to have validator sets that sit in between the swaps, and then to lock up considerable amounts of capital as collateral. And there's a cost attached to having that collateral and those validator sets there. And to be able to disrupt that landscape, you have to come with a new architecture, with a new approach. So we spent 8 years building a new architecture from scratch, whereby we don't have all of those validator sets and we don't lock up huge amounts of money for long periods of time, both of which cost a lot. So I'm not putting down JD Thor, who is a wonderful guy, and he was ahead of his time originally. But they have $400 million locked up at any one point in time, and they have 120 validators.
It's not very efficient.
The result of it is, if you take native Bitcoin and turn it into native Ethereum on their platform, the average cost of that is 2.6%. Binance will go and do that for you at 30 bips. People naturally go to Binance to do it.
What sort of trade-offs were involved in building your solution? You said without the validator set of the traditional architecture, what sort of trade-offs did you have to make to arrive where you're at now?
$34 million.
That's a lot.
I had my eye on a fantastic house in Ibiza. I've got to be honest. Try that for a trade-off.
Yeah, no kidding. So where are you at today? What's the status of Pact Swap? Can people use it? How much can they move around? What's it looking like?
Okay, fine. So where we're at, we have a live product in the market. You can go to Pact Swap, PACTSWAP.io. You can swap today. There are limits in place. And we have our first major merchant going live next week. So the product works. We raise the money to build it and then ship it before we go for a TGE. So this isn't just a promise of something.
I love that. What limits does the platform currently have as far as liquidity, and what does the path look like to raising those limits, and what assets are currently available to be swapped?
So today we have limits between $2,000 to $20,000 per swap. We manage native Bitcoin, native Ethereum, USDT on TRX, ERC, BNB, BNB itself, Rank Bitcoin, Polygon, and soon we'll be adding Solana, Tom, Base, Arbitrum.
I think that one of the reasons that so many people have had to stick with the centralized exchanges is that, you know, for smaller amounts it's simply not feasible to do a swap in a decentralized manner. You know, we've all seen the gas wars. We've seen the situations where it can cost 50 or $100 to do a swap for, you know, $1,000 of tokens. Are you all enabling people to do small amounts? And what does a fee look like? You know, if somebody wanted to swap $1,000 of Ethereum for $1,000 of Bitcoin, how much would that cost?
30 basis points.
That's incredible. So it scales with the size of the swap.
It absolutely scales. We're still on chain. We are subject to gas fees, but we're not taking all of the cost of the validators and the locked up capital, which invariably is being passed down to the retail parties that are swapping. So we're chopping out all of that overhead.
What comes next? I know you've mentioned that you're going to be integrating with different aggregators. What does that look like? How do you get the traction there? And, you know, with the fees, you're obviously going to be immediately competitive. How do you continue that momentum?
Okay, so in the first instance, we're moving between $5 to $6 million onto the platform a day. We've already signed those deals with merchants and gateways. So that's an integration job. That's there. Last that point, we're in touch with Trust Wallet, 1inch, Kyber Swap, and these guys work on a least cost routing model. So it goes to the routing table. Whoever's cheapest and has the liquidity,
They win.
they win the trades. And that looks like $50 to $60 million a day.
What's the revenue for the company look like on that, and how does that play into the token at all, or what's that look like?
So 10 basis points for every swap of the underlying collateral from the underlying protocol, CWeb, gets locked up in a fee pool. The only way to access the fee pool is to burn the swap token. So as the market cap of the fee pool approaches the market cap of the project, traders will identify an arbitrage play to burn the swap token to acquire the tokens in the fee pool.
Very cool. That's a really unique way of having the mechanics work. What's the one thing you'd leave us with, Toby? Is there anything that people can do to get involved? What's next? TGE?
So around TGE, we'll be opening up for retail market makers. So retail can come and post collateral and earn on every trade. And yes, we have TGE coming at a very, very low FDV, currently at $25 million. And our closest competitors at $200 million.
That's a great comp. Toby Gilbert, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.